Hello and welcome back. It's good to see you again. Thanks to those of you who have subscribed. And for those of you who have just come across this, please do subscribe. It really does help to have the motivation to keep going. I'm going through my alternative indie section of my CD collection, and I'm actually up to the end of it, and I'm finishing on the Ys, and there's only one band in the Ys, and that is Yo La Tengo. And so I've got a few Yo La Tengo albums. So this is kind of like a profile essentially on them. This is Fakebook, which is one of their earlier albums. It's from 1990, and it's a good mix of sort of indie rock, poppy sounds. They've kind of been influential, but also influenced by bands like Sonic Youth and other alternative indie bands around the early 90s as well. Late 80s, early 90s, so there's sort of elements of REM, but of course REM's quite unique for Michael Stipe's voice. And Yo La Tengo, if you've never come across them, they are one of those bands. So, you know, they're the sort of band that a lot of bands respect. They're very prolific. It's a trio. I don't remember their names. One's Ira, Dave, and Georgia, I think. And Georgia's female. So they've got a mix of male and female singing, which is always interesting, as well as something that I like, which is instrumentals. So, you know, there's songs on here, obviously, and they just run across everything from electro pop, electro rock. There's sort of punky tracks. There's sort of things that sound a bit like early Beach Boys, in terms of sort of the poppiness and the kind of guitar playing. They're multi-instrumentalists, so they've got a lot of that lovely rich sound that you get from people who can play all sorts of instruments and bring it together. Quite lush production on some albums. Other ones can be a little bit more stripped back. The other album I want to show, which comes after this, is called Painful. And so I think this one, I haven't heard this one lately, but sometimes they can get quite mellow, introspective. The music sort of takes a turn toward the sort of dirge with a lot of feedback, distortion. So yeah, they've got a real mix, often within an album, but also different albums sometimes are thematically different. So you can get more poppy, summery, dream poppy qualities to the albums, and then you get other ones, perhaps like Painful, as the name suggests. They're a little bit more introspective, mellow, chilled out, low key, and stripped back. This is I think this is a double album. Let me just double check that it is. Yes, it is a double album. Genius plus Love equals Yo La Tengo. These will all be listed down below. This is quite big. It feels like a sort of a compilation album. It may be a bunch of unreleased tracks that they put together. I can't be entirely sure. I got it just because at the time I was getting really into everything. Every single album I picked up I really enjoyed, so I just kept on devouring Yo La Tengo albums. So I saw this one, I believe it was quite reduced. It was just sort of secondhand, and I grabbed it, and it is really good. This is one where I think it's got that, because if you, let me just show the back. I don't always turn it around, but if you just see, let me just tilt that, the sheer number of tracks on there, you know, and it just really does run the gamut of different styles of songs and instrumentals. Yeah, so I really love it when a band can sort of move between really interesting instrumentals and then suddenly just switch it up with a song, and it may be a male or female voice. So, you know, the albums have a real sort of journey quality to them. This is probably my favorite album. And this one is I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. Yeah, I had to double check that. I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. And this is a really nice album. And it may be, I think, arguably their standout album. And a lot of people, you could go and check that out. A lot of people, I think, would agree. So this album is definitely worth getting. I'm going to put it in the one to get. I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. So, yeah, check out that one for sure. And this one is quite varied. There's quite a lot going on, quite a few different songs, but it all holds together quite nicely. It's not terribly jarring like some albums can be. Like I said, there can be a punky quality, a bit of a Sonic Youth quality to some of the tracks, which can be confronting, especially if it sort of follows on from a mellow one, and sometimes that happens. This one is called And Then Nothing Turns Itself Inside Out. So this is one that comes after that one. Now, I do know the photographer. There's a famous photographer. He actually did cinematography, and then he went into sort of fine art photography, and that's one of his artworks on the cover there. But unless I can see it quickly, and I don't think it actually lists it very easily for me to find, I'll open this up. This is obviously a digipack. There they are, Yo La Tengo, just hanging out. Let me get the names, YLT, James, Georgia, and Ira. So James, did I say James? I might have got that wrong. I might have said something else. So James, Georgia, and Ira are Yo La Tengo. But this one is one of the mellow ones. And it's sort of, you know, a little like Painful, my second album I pointed out. You can kind of tell a little bit by the cover art and also just the name of it. And Then Nothing Turns Itself Inside Out. But this is a really nice one. It's mellow in a really lovely way. So it's kind of got some cinematic qualities, again, that's implied by the imagery. But it's a really worthwhile album. So that's another one that I'd recommend. My other really, really favorite album is I Am Not Afraid of You and I Will Beat Your Ass. So that's a real favorite. Did I say really favorite? Sometimes when you got little kids around, you start speaking terrible English because of the way they communicate. This is another one of my favorites. So definitely worth checking this one out. It's got some great tracks. And this one jumps around a bit as well. So there's a few mellow ones, and then there's some really upbeat ones. And again, you can sort of get that from the cover. I'm not saying just judge it by the cover, but because they are so prolific, and I mean, this is a snapshot. There's a lot of other albums that I haven't got, and they're still producing albums. I haven't really kept up, although I got one more album to show you that is the most recent I've got from 2015, I believe. But I know that they're still going. Whether they've put anything else out in the last 5-7 years, I'm not 100% sure, but I reckon they probably have. They've been going since the 90s, and there may have been an album in the late 80s, but the earliest one I have is 1990, and this one is from the 2000s. I think it's 2000 and, let me have a look, 2006. They seem to be with Matador, is the label that they're with, so they seem to be quite prolific under Matador. And enjoying that deal that they got with them, because I believe they're still on Matador, yes, with this 2015 album, which is Stuff Like That There. And this is, the last one I got, and that's not because I wouldn't want to get more, it's just, at what point do you draw the line in collecting a musician's work? I don't know, I haven't sort of sought them out, but now that I'm reviewing my CD collection, I've come across some musicians that I haven't bought their stuff for a while, because you'll notice that in my CD collection, in the alternative indie, for example, there's been a lot of multiple albums from single musicians or bands, and that's just my way of appreciating that they do change over time, and they also create different albums at different points in their musical careers. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember what this one's like. I think it's just solid. It's just Yo La Tengo. Like I said, they're a band's band, so people like to sort of keep up with them. And I haven't recently, but I think this was just good standard Yo La Tengo. And it's a musicianship. It's the references that they make. There can be sort of like that old country sound. There's, with acoustic guitar, sometimes there can be a little bit of banjo and some fiddle in there, which gives that sort of country quality, old country quality. But then there can be also sort of a Spanish sensibility with some of their tracks, so almost like a border sound, because they're bringing in sort of a Spanish guitar sound. And there's accordions, so there's that sort of, squeeze box sound that you get, sort of like traveller music. And so they really do mix it up, but of course then they can just be rocking out in that kind of electro rock, electro pop, and garage band sound, garage rock. I'm getting all my terms all muddled up, but let's not get too hung up on terminology. Just check them out, Yo La Tengo. If you haven't heard of them, they are an essential band for an alternative indie CD collection. And that's it. That's my alt indie collection, and I will probably do a final video where I bring all together the N's through to Y's, but I also want to put in the description A's all the way through to Y's for the alt indie section, so that you can get my recommendations for a physical collection. Because remember, this is what this is all about, is to encourage you to actually go out, find the CDs, buy them, and have them as part of your collection. And for me, the alternative indie section is quite a big part of my CD collection. It's on balance with the electronica and the jazz collection that I have. So yeah, look forward to seeing you soon. It will be blues, but I think I might make a few other videos in between before I get back to the CD collection. So I want to experiment a little bit with creating narrative and different kinds of videos, because for those of you who have just come across this whole idea for me was to get into this, YouTubing, but to practice through talking about my CD collection. And now that I've done that for one section of it, I'm now ready to maybe play around a little bit with editing and create some narrative stories and add those videos and see where this channel is going to go. So it's not just a music channel, there will be other things. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe, come back for more, and see you soon.